episode number 110. Go to dadhackers.us/110 to get all the show notes and resources. What's up, Dad Hackers? My name is Patrick Antonucci, and I am the host and founder of this podcast and community of Dad Hackers. Dad Hackers is a community of Christian fathers who are devoted to encouraging, equipping, and enabling one another to become the men that God has created and called us to be, so that we can raise up the next generation of fully devoted followers of Christ and leave a legacy of multi-generational faithfulness. Now, on this show, we primarily interview Christian men to dive deep into their experiences and insights into what it means to be a Christian man, a Christian husband, a Christian father, and a Christian leader. We ask questions that dig deep into the thinking and rationale and experiences of these men so that we can all learn and grow into the men that God is calling us to be. I'm so thankful that you've joined us today. Make sure you subscribe so that you never miss any of our value-packed episodes. Also, please make sure you leave an honest review if you're listening to this in iTunes or any other platform that takes reviews. Reviews boost the show's ratings, which means that more dads are going to come across our show and benefit from the content that we put out. I also wanted to let you know that we do have a free private Facebook group just for Christian dads. So after the show, make sure you hop on over to the show notes. There's a link for that in there as well. All right, John, man, thank you so much for coming on the show today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm honored to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
Likewise, the honor is definitely mutual. So I thought we'd start off, if you could just tell us briefly, I mean, I know a lot of people know who you are, but for the guys that maybe don't or have maybe just heard about you, not really sure where you fit into this whole thing, maybe just give us a little background.
Yeah, you bet. So married for 37 years, raised 3 boys. They're young men now. They're starting their families. Live in Colorado. Been a Christian therapist for 30 years, but started writing about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Wrote a book called Wholehearted Heart that did a lot of good for a lot of men. Still is. It's actually still the #1 book for Christian men out there. So it's a phenomenon. It's a very, very special story that God did and continues to do. A lot of healing for marriages, a lot of healing for guys coming through that book. So that gave up my private practice because now we have an organization called Ransomed Heart, and we do Wholehearted Heart conferences, retreats for men. We do women's events all over the world, and have a podcast and do that kind of thing. So I kind of went from being a therapist and one-on-one, in a private office, to now being able to speak to people on a larger scale, but about the same things, just not understanding your story, understanding your relationship with your dad, all that stuff, how to be a more wholehearted man. What does wholehearted masculinity look like? So that's a snapshot.
Sounds good, man. And I'll let you know, you probably know this, but a lot of the guys that I've interviewed, either if I ask them for book recommendations or if they just quote a book, usually your book is in there somewhere.
Oh, wow.
And it's definitely had an enormous impact on a lot of men's lives. And I've had some pretty good interviews on the show previously, and in our Facebook community, a lot of the guys in there know of your book, have read your book, the Wholehearted Heart book, and have really, really good things to say. I've read it a couple times, and I know it's a staple on a lot of men's shelves. So
yeah, that's beautiful.
God has definitely done a lot of things through that book, and so we definitely appreciate that. So you, this is kind of off topic, I don't know, but you said wholehearted masculinity. Could you maybe give us a nutshell what that means?
Well, we are all pretty banged up. This world that we live in is a world at war. And there are a lot of things starting from our youth that assault our hearts as boys and then young men and men. you end up with a lot of questions. You end up with, am I a man? Do I have what it takes? Can I handle this woman? Can I handle this job? Can I, you get into the weeds, and all of the questions and the fears and stuff show up. So I think that God's primary work in a man's life is initiating him into a wholehearted masculinity. And what I mean by wholehearted is that there aren't private closets. There aren't fragmented places in us, that we are true. We are one thing. We are healing from childhood wounding. We are growing in integrity and strength. We are becoming more loving. We're becoming more joyful. We're becoming stronger, wiser, and frankly, more free as men. So I think that's what God's up to in any one of our lives at any point in time. And just to point out, like the quarantine thing right now, and the pandemic and all that, like getting locked in, for the most part, it raises a lot of issues. Like it can raise anger, it can raise fears. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world, right? Not just about the virus, but about the economy. And will we get our jobs back? And what will that look like when we do? So that uncertainty that guys are feeling, that's actually gold, because that's where God's working. How we handle the uncertainty says a lot about us, and it says a lot about the unhealed places in us. So I don't think God's in the pandemic, but I think he's using it. I think in all of our lives to surface unhealed things so that he can heal them.
Yeah, my wife and I were talking about the whole pandemic and everything, and you and I were just talking a minute ago before we hit record about the opportunity that this can present, and and lots of times, like you were saying, it surfaces these issues, these concerns, and it can be an opportunity for healing. And I think you're right. This uncertainty is gold. And I think another layer to that is that it really reveals the level of uncontrol that we already have in our lives, that is kind of masked by our typical routines and possessions and what we do, and the false sense of security those things can bring to us. And now that's kind of removed. And so it's really revealing how out of control we are in our own lives. And this is an opportunity for us to run to God.
Yeah, it really is. Because the world is no more fragile now than it was 5 months ago. It's just that it's been exposed for how fragile it is, right? And our deep and profound need for God to be our security.
Yes.
And it has always been the same. It was the same 3 years ago as it is today. It's just that all, as you were saying, it's unmasked. I like that phrase. It's the mask has been pulled away of the false securities that we have.
Yeah. So how about we get into your new book, Get Your Life Back? How about you tell us a little bit about it? Maybe what prompted you to want to write this, and why the title Get Your Life Back? And that kind of implies a couple things, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the subtitle is Everyday Practices for a World Gone Mad. The timing of Jesus in having this book come out right before the pandemic is extraordinary. Because here's what's happened, that the chaos of living in a world like we live, everybody's running so fast. Before the lockdown, everybody was way plugged in over technology before the lockdown. And it was brutal on the human soul. It really was. And didn't plan on writing this book. I actually just got cooked in the kettle of this world myself. I just get home and I'd be so spun up, too much information, moving way too fast. And there wasn't time for my soul to be healthy and strong.
Yeah.
And so I just began to look for what can I do to get out of the chaos and the madness. My friends are taking their kids to like 11 p.m. lacrosse games because that's when you can fit it in as a family. And that's when the clubs are doing it. And then there's soccer and there's music. And I mean, it's nuts. The world is nuts.
Yeah.
And so again, my kind of work is, how do we help people be whole? How do we help them be well and strong? And I'm like, we got to learn to do some very simple things to not be completely fried by the chaos of the world. And then you throw those people, you throw those very same people into the pandemic now. And the folks that came into it strong and well are doing okay. The folks that came into it empty and already fried, they're not doing so well. Right? Because, you're glued to the news, you're watching way too much Netflix, you're eating potato chips, this is a time for us to kind of choose, what kind of soul do I want to have? How strong do I want to be? How resilient do I want to be?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because this can really mess up a lot of people. So you talked a little bit about the news. What kind of effect does the news and social media, and you talked about Netflix and all of this, like we need to stay abreast of the situation and what's going on, and
Yep.
social media is a great way to stay connected, and Netflix can be a good thing to kind of decompress after a long day. But overuse and oversaturation with that can probably be negative. So what kind of effect has this had?
Well, again, prior to the pandemic, we got to talk like it's sort of like pre-Pearl Harbor and post-Pearl Harbor,
Right.
And so prior to the pandemic, the research was overwhelming that there is a direct correlation between rising anxiety and depression and the amount of time you spend on social media.
Wow.
You're like, what? Like that? Wait a sec. Like direct correlation, absolutely undisputed. There's so much research on this now. And so you go, wait a second. Like, I do think it is a good way to connect. And I think it's super helpful now. I mean, thank God we can still talk to our friends, but there's a whole bunch of data out there that shows too much screen time, too much technology actually begins to mess with your brain. And it messes with your emotions. It's not a healthy lifestyle. It's not the same thing as being in a room with a real human being. And then let me add another piece of data on this. So the human soul was actually never meant to carry the news of the world. Your soul is not global sized. Your soul is community sized. It's church sized. It's like, you're meant to know the news of a local community, its heartaches, its joys, its struggles, and subjecting human beings, as we have been, for years now, to the trauma and chaos and drama and intrigue of the entire world. That's brutal. Right after 9/11, they did some studies that people who watched the Twin Towers go down on 9/11 on their televisions experienced the same level of PTSD as the people who were there.
Wow.
So we just got to kind of be aware of, like, you have to be very careful how much you expose yourself to. You're not meant to take in the trauma of the world every day. And then now let's go post-pandemic. So everybody is glued to what's happening in Italy. How many people have died in France? What's South Korea doing? And again, you're absolutely right. You got to get the news. You need to be informed. I do every day, but I also regulate my news intake. Like, there's enough, and then you back out. And the same thing with, using technology to kind of soothe your soul. one of my strong recommendations for people right now in the quarantine period is do real things, like play games, listen to music, play music, do a puzzle, take a walk. Like, honestly, the human brain and the human soul needs to do real things. So one of the greatest joys I've had during the pandemic, I have two things that are bringing me life. One is my daily walk. You got to get out. I mean, this thing is going to cook. It's going to cook you if you do not take care of your mental health. And so the daily walk is huge. And I'm building a fly fishing raft in my garage. Now, we can't go rafting right now, but working with tools, doing something real, getting off the media, getting off the news, and just being in my garage sort of tinkering around has been a total rescue. I'm amazed at how happy I am doing that.
Yeah, and I know we've been trying to make it a practice to at least go for one walk a day, even if it's just around the neighborhood, but we'll try to get to the bike trail or try to get to the local park. And most of the time when we get back, it's like you've been refreshed, renewed, and re-energized, reinvigorated, all those rewords that you want to use. And you're exactly right there. But I think the temptation for a lot of people is to just hunker down, stay in, not go out, let all their normal habits and routines go by the wayside, and just kind of be a blob. So we talked about the news and its negative impact. And when you take in the entire world's news, that's a lot to take in. And when you're constantly feeding on that, that's not a good diet. But how about just regular social media consumption? Like if I'm constantly scrolling Facebook, if I'm constantly on Instagram or whatever media outlet I like to use, what's the problem with that?
Well, it's two things. It's two things I can name. First off, again, your soul was meant to live in a real world, not a digital world. And just think of your difference, guys. Like you can name this for yourself. You could look at the difference when you get back from a bike ride and how you feel to how you feel after spending an hour on social media. Right? It's not the same. Think of how the difference you feel. You guys are near the ocean, after you get to swim in the ocean versus an hour on Instagram, looking at pictures of the ocean. It's not the same thing. Like reality nourishes the human soul. And the artificial, the digital does not. It's as simple as that. Now, again, like I'm not saying totally unplug. You got to say hi to your parents, and you need to check in on, if your kids are living in another city, you got to do, you want to check in with your friends. You need to be, that's all great, but not hours of it, especially as you said, during the pandemic. This is a really important time to keep your routines. Like don't stay in your pajamas all day. Don't watch television all day. Like you got to get a healthy rhythm going, or you're going to come out of this thing like a prisoner of war. You're going to be all pale and emaciated, and your head is, you're not going to be well in your head. Like you have to fight this. Now let me name another thing, because we're still talking about technology for a moment. So the global pandemic that's the real pandemic is fear, right? And the fear thing is awful. And that will really do harm. And so the fear gets in when you consume too much of the news or what other people are saying, or, there's all these conspiracy theories going around.
Oh, yeah.
The fear is not good. And so Jesus gave you a very simple test. He said, you shall know them by their fruit. What's the fruit of going for your daily walk versus the fruit of consuming the latest conspiracy theory email that you got? You just look at the fruit of it. Right. Like if this thing increases your fear level, the fruit's not good, right? God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind.
Amen, man. So you talk about these 5 daily habits. Could you maybe run through these habits, and are they
Yeah.
applicable in this current situation, and what
Yeah.
their purpose is?
Yeah. More so. More so.
All right, guys, wanted to take a quick second to tell you about the Iron Men Mastermind. If you're looking for a band of brothers that you can lock shields with, that can go to battle with you in the day-to-day life, who are also in the trenches, going through the same struggles and the same challenges that you are going through, I suggest you check out the Iron Men Mastermind. This mastermind was developed and designed for Christian men to help us become the men that God has created and called us to be. And it's designed to help us increase our relationship with God, increase our relationship with our wives, increase our relationship with our children, and begin to provide better for them financially, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, relationally, in all of those areas, those things that wake you up in the middle of the night. These are the kinds of things that we work on. These are the kinds of ways that we can help you out in the Iron Man Mastermind. If this is something that is of interest to you, you may want to join the Iron Man community, and you can check out more information at dadhackers.us/Ironmen, one word, Ironmen there. All right, now back to our show.
So we can come back to the joy, the marvel of Jesus putting this out. He put this book out. So the first practice is what I call the 1-minute pause. And it actually kind of incorporates two, the first and second, the 1-minute pause and benevolent detachment. So what I realized back when, and here's the thing, I'm working now more than ever. Anybody who's working from home right now realizes the Zoom meetings are too easy. You don't have the downtime of like walking to someone's office or going into the company kitchen and getting a granola bar. All that's gone. It's just work. It's just Slack and email and texting and Zoom calls. I am working more now than I did before. So the 1-minute pause is learning during your day to just stop. You stop for a moment and you let it all go. And what I realized before the pandemic is I never stop. Like I get up in the morning and I just go. And I go from meeting to phone call, my commute, I'm catching up on the news and podcasts that I'm trying to stay up on. And you're just boom, 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 boom. It's go, go, go. Watch people in line. People in line literally don't know how to be in line anymore. Everybody pulls their phone out.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't know what to do with downtime. It's amazing. It's like you can't just chill. You can't just people watch or look at what the ducks are doing or watch the weather. Like we can't, right?
Yeah. Or even just say hi to the person in the elevator next to you.
How you doing? Yeah. Okay. So the 1-minute pause is learning a couple times during your day. You just stop and reset. You stop and reset. And you practice number 2 is what we call benevolent detachment. You learn to let it go. Like we were saying about, you were never meant to carry the burdens of the world. You were never meant to carry the uncertainty of the pandemic. I mean, living with the uncertainty is brutal. Someone was explaining to me that the Marines do this in training, is that they say, okay, start running, but they don't tell you how far you're going to run and when it's going to end. And it's a mental game, right? You just start running and you don't know how long or how far you're going to run. Well, that's what this is like right now. It's this uncertainty.
Yeah.
You got to let that go. A couple times a day, you just got to reset and just go, man, I release all this. So 1 Peter 5, verse 17, cast all your cares upon God because he really does care for you. We're not very good at that.
Nope.
And so we got to learn how to do it. And the 1-minute pause, like you can start with 1 minute. Anybody can do that. And so I spend my 1-minute pause like this. And it ends up being a little bit more than a minute, but I just pause. And I just go like this. Jesus, I give everyone and everything to you. And I just sit there with that. God, I give everyone and everything to you. And And the relief is unbelievable. Like you can literally feel your body. You're like, oh my gosh, my body was so stressed out. And I was spinning. I was already spun up in the day. What about my kids? And what are we going to do? And what about my folks? Am I going to get my job back? And are there going to be pay cuts? And when's those relief checks coming? And you got to release it. I'm serious. You have to a couple times a day. So here's a real fun story. We built an app around this.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, this is okay. So this is another Jesus thing, because he had us build this app back in November prior to the pandemic, and we were able to test it and kind of get it going. And this app, we're getting 1,000 downloads a day right now.
Wow.
70,000 people have this app right now, and they're using it all through the day. Because what the app is the 1 minute pause. It's free. It's on Apple and Android. The 1 minute pause app. And what it does is it centers you. There's like music, prayer, scripture, and it just lets you do what I was describing. You stop during your day when you're feeling spun up, or you're feeling lonely, or you're feeling fearful, or you realize, oh my gosh, I just spent 3 hours on Netflix. You stop and you pull back to God, and you reset your attention on God. And the 1 minute pause literally starts with me leading in prayer, saying, Jesus, I give everyone and everything to you. And as you practice that, you do it a couple times a day, then you do it every day, and you do it through your week. I've got guys writing me every day now. A guy just texted me yesterday saying he's got a 100-day streak going on the app, and it's saving his life during the pandemic, because he's a guy that struggles with some anxiety already to begin with, and he's a real successful guy, successful attorney, but there's always something to worry about, right? There's always something to worry. And so he's just saying, this thing is saving my life. So 1 minute pause, benevolent detachment, just look, those practices will really help you in the pandemic right now.
Now, John, is this 1 minute pause, is this something that you're just supposed to do alone? Because I can already think of myself doing this with my wife and leading her in that, or even leading my kids through that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I got the coolest picture the other day from a mom with her 2 little ones sitting on the kitchen floor, and I saw the phone there, and they were doing the 1 minute pause together, and like teaching her kids, Jesus, we give everyone and everything to you. Because then it goes on. The goal of it is restoring your union with God. So the prayer then is, heal my union with you, God, restore my union with you. And then the third part of the prayer is, fill me up. I need you, God. I need to be filled with you. And so the reason that you unplug from it, and we'll get into it, that's probably one of the practices I wrote down there. I'm kind of forgetting what the 5 are right now. But simple unplugging, like the reason that we unplug from our world as a discipline, we say, I am turning off technology now, is so that you can be filled with God. So what has your attention is the question. And a couple of times a day, you want to reset and give God your attention. So here's a couple practical things people can do on simple unplugging. Do not check your phone first thing in the morning. Because as soon as you check your phone, you are in the matrix, man.
Sucked in, man. Sucked in.
Yep. Like there's the panic text, there's the latest thing Trump did, there's the crisis in Spain, there something you're going to get pulled in, and that's not good again for human souls. Like, so I discipline myself. I do not check my phone, not even the weather. I don't check my phone first thing in the morning. Make a cup of coffee, look out the window, like
do a 1 minute pause.
Pause, like find God, find your own soul. Like you get to be a human being again. Human beings were never meant to live at the pace of smartphones. And the big lie was that technology was going to give us all this margin to enjoy our lives, right? You're going to bike more, you're going to run more, it's not what happened.
It's opposite.
What happened is Yeah, the opposite. Everybody now is trying to keep up with the pace of their laptop and their smartphone. So that's one tip. Don't check your phone first thing in the morning. Another tip is come evening, and especially during the pandemic, this is going to be huge. Everybody's technology in the house goes off. So kids, spouse, roommates, whoever you're living with, everybody's technology goes off after dinner. And it's by mutual agreement. We are going to be real people again, and we're going to do real things. So we're going to play games, right? We're going to build something. We're going to do a puzzle, right? We're going to play sardines in the house. We're going to, something, right? Like just simple, those two simple steps right there. Not first thing in the morning, not last thing in the evening, will begin to heal your soul in ways that you're like, I had no idea how much I needed this.
Yeah. The way that the technology just kind of gradually permeates every aspect of your being, and the end caps to your day, relinquishing yourself from technology on those times, I can definitely see. I do the morning thing. I haven't done the evening thing, but it's been a huge blessing not diving in first thing. It helps me be more productive. Right? I can get my morning devotional time in, my journaling and those kind of things, and I'm not distracted by.
Way to go.
Because as soon as you check your phone, you're sucked in. Even if you just went on, I don't know how many times I've gone on my phone to check a text message, but I had another app already open, and man, I'm gone. Yep. And then I get off my phone, I'm like, oh, I forgot to check my text message.
Yep. Right. And then your devotion time's gone.
Right.
So now you got to get going, and people are barking at you to get to work or whatever it is, right? And it's gone.
Yeah. And you're frazzled already.
Yep. You're already fried, and it is 9-10 in the morning. You're already cooked. Yeah. And so sleep disorders have become a huge thing, in this culture. And there's a lot of data that shows you shouldn't be looking at screens before you go to bed. It's that blue light and all of that's not good for sleeping. So you want to sleep well. Don't look at screens right before you go to bed. Like read a real book,
Yeah. A real book will put you right to sleep if you're tired too.
Right? Exactly.
So what role does beauty play in our souls? I think that's one of the 5.
Yeah. And this will be really helpful in the pandemic too, because we need to step back and say, human beings were never meant to be locked up. This is actually really hard on people, and even the resilient, and even those of us, like I'm a super monastic person. I love being alone. I love reading. I love hiking alone. I go fly fishing alone. I love alone time, because it's not alone. It's me and God. But even for the resilient or the introvert, that's like, are you kidding me? This is awesome. I don't have to see people. It's actually really hard. And you add the fear, you add the uncertainty. There's a lot that people are carrying right now. So what can we do to comfort our souls? Well, beauty. This is an amazing thing. Beauty actually heals trauma. It heals the human soul. And there's data of people in hospitals recover faster. They are released sooner, and they need less pain medication if they simply have a window that looks out on nature.
Wow.
Isn't this cool?
That's cool.
Nature heals, beauty heals, and God wired that into us. And again, this is a no-brainer. You just, compare the difference, how you feel on vacation, right? People love vacation, and it's not just because you're off work, it's because you're in beautiful places, right? You go to the cabin, you go to the lake, you go to the beach, you raft the river, you hike the mountains or whatever, and the beauty is healing you, and technology doesn't heal. So in the pandemic, you can still get beauty, because God just saturated the world with it. So right now I'm in Colorado, and it is snowing outside. It's just nuts, man. April.
Yeah.
2 days ago it was 70, and I'm out in the yard in shorts and a t-shirt. And today it's, 15 degrees and snowing, but there's still beauty in it. Like I just watch the snow fall. You take 5 minutes. You just watch the snowfall. You watch the sunrise. You listen to music right now, folks. Like, listen to beautiful music. It's very, very healing for your soul. Listen to worship. Put on some worship music in the house. That'd be a great way to spend your evenings, by the way. So beauty heals, beauty restores, beauty renews, and it's a very simple discipline. You just say to yourself, I need some beauty today. I need to go get some beauty. And a friend of mine gave me this incredible gift. She gave me a book. It's a coffee table book, kind of a thing, on pictures of waves, just ocean waves. It's not digital, it's photography, and it's sitting there on my table. I'll just look at it and just like look at something beautiful, get some flowers in the house, like listen to the rain on the roof, like let beauty in, because it's very comforting, it's very reassuring, and it's in this hour the beauty will really help.
Yeah, so we're bumping up against the end of time here, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to the primary audience here, which is Christian dads in the age range of about 25 to 45. We have women that listen, older men, grandparents, but that's really the target age of man that's listening to this show, that it has kids. He's in the thick of it right now, in the trenches of fatherhood. What one thing would you say to him now in this current season? And by the way, everything that we've talked about has kind of been framed in the context of the current pandemic thing with the coronavirus and all that's going on right now. But all of this can apply throughout your entire life. So just
Exactly.
Keep that in mind. But John,
exactly.
what do you want them to know?
The way you treat your own soul is the way you will treat your kids. So if you do not take care of your soul, if you are not well and joyful and doing things that bring you life, you'll have a very hard time being a good dad, because you can't run on fumes. And the world wants you running on fumes. Like that's normal. Everybody runs on fumes in the world, like more, faster, get more done, do more, get here, go there, do there, soccer practice, music practice. Now it's church. Now it's, you can't do that. You got to set a new culture for your family. And this time can be a reset. Say, look, we're going to be real people. We're going to be human beings. And so Dad, I've got all kinds of fathering advice. So you should probably have me back on your show. But the thing I can say to you right now is, Dad, you have actually got to take care of your soul, because everybody's looking to you to help guide the family ship. And if you're cooked or afraid or uncertain, if you are all spun up in the news, you're going to bring that into the family culture, right? So you go spend an hour online taking in all these news reports. You're going to walk into the living room and you're going to be that guy, angry, spun up, mad about something. And I'm like, don't do that to yourself. The way you treat your soul is the way you will treat everyone else's. So get out for your walk, listen to some worship, get the scripture in your soul every day, do the 1 minute pause, get the app, that'll save your soul. Like, take care of your soul, because then your kids are watching you and they're like, wow, dad seems fine. He's like, he's not even shaken by this. He's happy. We're playing games. He's cracking jokes. Like, I like that, Dad.
Yeah,
that's a good dad.
Yeah, amen. And I could see that, also influencing your life as a husband and as a leader. I mean, those kind of things permeate all aspects.
Yep.
So John, if guys want to get connected with you or grab your new book, because you dive into a whole lot more in your book in Get Your Life Back. So definitely guys want to get that. So what's the best way to connect?
Yeah. I grab the book. If I were you, Get Your Life Back. I get the 1 minute pause app. It's free. But we do have a podcast. We do some live events. We're doing some things online right now in the meantime. So you can come to ransomedheart.com. That's our ministry. So Jesus ransomed us. right, with his life. We are ransomedheart.com, and you can find out a little bit more.
All right. Well, I'll put all that stuff up in the show notes so guys can just click or tap right on that. Of course, not while they're doing their 1 minute pause, but when they're, in their mediated use of social media. So, all right, John, brother. Well, it was really an honor to have you on the show today. And I appreciate all your wisdom, your insight, and a lot of the practical things that you shared. I feel like guys are going to walk away from this episode and be able to just implement so many things. And so guys, let me talk to you for a real quick second. We talked about a lot of stuff, and sometimes these things can be overwhelming in just the number of practical things that you can implement. Pick one and start there. Get that under your belt and then add one more. Don't feel like you have to, turn your phone off right now and implement all of these. Pick one and start there. That's very good advice. All right, man. Well, thanks again, John. I appreciate it. Yeah, this was a joy. Thanks for having me on. For sure. We'll have to do this again. Okay, great. All right, gentlemen, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope our conversation was a blessing to you and that you leave this episode better equipped to be the man and the father God has called and created you to be. If so, then I ask that you please leave us a 5-star rating and a quick written review in iTunes. Then make sure you head on over to the show notes to get all of the resources for this episode. While you're there, you can take part in our 5 Days to Be a Better Dad challenge, as well as get involved with our free Facebook community. All right, gentlemen, until next week, remember Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Stay sharp.